I've always found coffee to be quite burnt and bitter. So, and I'm quite sensitive to bitterness anyway, so I felt that there was something wrong with me. Why didn't I like that drink that half the population really loves and can't, function without in the morning? And then one day my wife comes around and says, let's buy one of those Nespresso machines. And you don't argue with a wife, not over £100 Nespresso machine. And I got all these capsules and I decided to try to experiment and to really learn about it, because I love food, I love wine, I'm a wine collector myself, and I like to think that I enjoy a lot things which are, gastronomic, or things that come from the enjoyment of drinking and eating. So I really said, okay, maybe this is an opportunity to learn about coffee. So started drinking all the Nespresso, which was nice. I discovered that there were some that I liked more than others. I still had to add some sugar. And then one morning I said, all right, where's the best? So I went to Harrods and I discovered that they have this whole specialty coffee sections. And when I asked the guy there, what are specialty coffees, and he started to show me that he's got coffees like Jamaica Blue Mountain and Kopi Luwak from Indonesia, and Panamanian geishas, and Kona from Hawaii, and so on. And it resonated with me because it's similar to wine in a way. You're thinking about coffee in terms of terroir, and how different coffees from different terroirs will have completely different taste profiles. So normally when it comes to capsules, most of the time you don't really get much variance in the taste profile. You get a lot in terms of bitterness. So stronger, weaker, which is more bitter, less bitter. But suddenly when I started putting coffees in capsules, I discovered that, wow, you can really get chocolates, you can really get nuts, you can really get floralness and so on. Every single category when it comes to food, wine, you have grading systems, or you should have grading systems. I'm sure that with cheese you have the same thing, or you have it with tea, you have it with coffee, you have it with wine. And these are all terroir based ingredients. If you think about it, we always have a saying, and it's very similar to wine. If you think about it, if it didn't happen in the field, it's never going to happen in your cup. In order to grade coffee, the Specialty Coffee Association has created a 100-point system, and it's a protocol that gives you the ability, or gives everyone around the world who is a professional cupper, the possibility of analyzing or doing sensory analysis and grading various attributes for coffee. So things like aromatics, flavors, aftertaste, acidity, body, balance, etc., etc. And every single attribute gets various points. Now, any coffee that scores 80 points and over is deemed of specialty grade, and anything which is less than 80 is of commercial grade. Now, approximately 1% of the world's supply of coffee is of specialty grade, and what we do is we try to identify literally the highest graded farm in each country. So in a way, our coffees are like the 1% of that 1%. A lot of people ask me, and even I asked professionals in the beginning, is it worthwhile putting the world's highest graded coffees, things which are so rare and that nobody has, in capsules? And when I started our business, the industry looked at me and going like, what the hell are you doing? Now everyone's copying me, by the way. Now you've got, everyone is in the industry doing exactly what I'm doing. But the truth of the matter is that you can put it in capsule, of course. It does work, and I'll explain to you why. There's only two ways of making or of brewing coffee. You can either brew coffee with pressure or without pressure. So without pressure, you roast coffee, you grind it, you introduce hot water to it, you extract a lot of flavors, you extract a lot of caffeine, and then you plunge it, or like a French press or drip, and you've got a coffee, you've got a filter coffee which is extremely aromatic, it's got a lot of caffeine in it, and it doesn't have really much body, so it's not a very strong drink, but it's extremely flavorsome. On the other hand, Italian invention, espresso, 25 to 30 seconds, you extract a very strong drink, concentrated, less aromatic though, and less caffeine. So filter, for example, will have 3 times the amount of caffeine as an espresso. A lot of times I get, you see men saying, I'd like to, an espresso, short, dark, strong, and you see women saying, I'll just have a filter coffee, just kind of light with some milk. But at the end of the day, it works the other way around. The women will be drinking 3 times as much caffeine as the guys, right? You cannot pack as much coffee into a capsule as you cut it into a portafilter. So what you get is a coffee which is which has slightly less dissolved solids or slightly less body. However, what you lose in body, you gain in freshness. See, the most important thing post roast is to keep the coffee fresh. And coffee loses flavors in 2 ways, very similar to wine actually. It oxidizes and it also degasses. So I don't know if you've noticed, on coffee bags you have this one-way valve which allows the coffee to degas basically, otherwise the bag will explode. So the idea is that it degasses but you lose flavors out of it. And let's say you open a bag of beans, it smells great, but 3 days later it's not going to smell as good anymore because the coffee would have oxidized. Now what happens with capsules is by basically taking the coffee, putting it in a single serve container which is hermetically sealed and nitrogen flushed, so each container doesn't have any oxygen in it, you retain freshness. And one of the reasons why a capsule will always produce a very, very good crema, for example, is because of that, because the crema is an indication that you still have carbon dioxide inherent in the bean post roast. So for me, I'd rather have freshness than body. One of my experiments was like, all right, we're having an amazing dinner, we had a great bottle of wine. What happens if you return to wine afterwards? It sometimes happens. You have a great meal, you drink some wine, you have some coffee, and then afterwards you realize that you forgot, quarter of a glass of something, and you're like, oh my God, I can't let it go to waste, let's take it back. And we took a 47 Lafite and an 09 Lafite, and just to compare young and old as one would do. And then we took something in the middle. They didn't have a middle Lafite, so we took a 2000 Mouton. I mean, of course it was a little bit of self-indulgence, but the whole difference project was created a little bit out of self-indulgence because I just wanted to drink some good coffees. And we sipped back the older wines, and what we found that actually the coffee helped elevate some of the lost notes of the wine. So it was really, really interesting how that elevated coffee. What happened was that, if you take something like a 47 Lafite, it lost a lot of its fruit, for example, right? It's very, very mellow in a way. So suddenly you add something which has that nice acidity, but it's not overly powerful. It doesn't taint the palate. And then you come back to the wine and you just see that it adds to it. It almost like completes it in a way. I mean, until you try it, it's very hard to describe, but I really recommend you doing that. I think the main conclusion was that delicate coffees work really, really well with wines, be it before or after. Things like Jamaica Blue Mountain or Panamanian geishas work really, really well after a good bottle of wine, which is actually a good thing for sommeliers to know, because if they can integrate that into the discussion in some way, it can help sell coffee better and help then the customers return back to wine. Coincidentally, we did the same experiment with champagne once, and it didn't work. Unfortunately, it didn't work because the acidity of the champagne was very, very high. The acidity of the coffee was very high. So when you drink the coffee and then you go to the champagne, it mutes the acidity of the champagne and completely kind of like flattens it, where you don't have the same thing when it comes to wine.